Golden light poured over the campus lawn, touching everything with the kind of warmth people write poems about. Rows of white folding chairs stood like tiny soldiers awaiting their audience. Camera flashes sparkled like fireflies. Students milled around in navy blue gowns, mortarboards bobbing above heads like a tide of moving dreams. Laughter rang out. Proud parents wiped tears. Hugs were everywhere. It was our daughter Ava's graduation day. 17 years of scraped knees, piano recitals, science fairs, heartbreaks, sleepovers, and whispered bedtime stories, all leading up to this single, breathtaking milestone. I had been imagining this day since the moment I first held her in my arms, and as I stood there in my best blue dress, holding a bouquet of yellow roses, I thought to myself, we did it. My husband, Daniel, was beside me. His hand brushed mine, warm but unfamiliar. We'd been married for 21 years. We met when I was just out of college, still chasing poetry dreams and unsure if love like in the books really existed. He was solid, dependable, charming in a quiet way. We built a life, slowly, steadily. And though the romance dulled over the years, I still believed in the comfort of our togetherness. Ava's name echoed through the air. Ava Elaine Thompson. She walked across the stage, tall, graceful, confident, and my heart nearly burst. I clapped until my palms stung, tears streaming freely. Daniel gave a short clap, then looked down at his phone. Something about the way he did it, disconnected, impatient, sent a chill crawling up my spine. I shook it off. Not today, it's her day. After the ceremony, the chaos of hugs, photos, and congratulatory handshakes followed. Ava was radiant, her arms full of flowers and honors cords. We posed for a family picture, her in the middle, Daniel on her right, me on her left. I wrapped an arm around her waist, leaned in, and smiled for the camera. Then, just as the photographer clicked, Daniel turned to me. His voice was calm, too calm. "I'm leaving you." I blinked. "What?" "I'm done, Claire," he said, eyes cool, detached. "I wanted to wait until after Ava's graduation, but I can't pretend anymore. I'm leaving. I've already moved most of my things out." The photographer lowered his camera. Ava, still beaming, hadn't heard. She was chatting with a friend just steps away. My ears rang. "You're what?" "In fact, this will probably be the last event we do together. I just can't keep living a lie," he said, as if we were discussing the weather. "I've met someone. We're serious." The words barely registered. Not because I didn't understand, but because my brain refused to absorb the humiliation of it. Not here, not now, not today of all days. I felt my legs weaken. My heart pounded, a chaotic rhythm that drowned out the ambient sounds. My throat burned with unshed tears. I managed to whisper, "Why today? Why this moment?" He shrugged. Better to just get it out there, rip the band-aid off. The cruelty of his casual tone was more painful than the words themselves. I had loved this man, shared a home, raised a daughter, buried my dreams so he could chase his. And he picked our daughter's graduation, my proudest moment as a mother, to announce his betrayal. I nodded slowly, feeling my face burn, but I didn't cry. Not yet. Not in front of everyone. I looked at Ava, laughing with friends, her eyes full of the future. I turned back to Daniel and smiled, a strange, unnatural calm settling into my bones. "Okay," I said softly. "If you're done pretending, so am I." He didn't understand what I meant. Not yet, but he would. Later that night, I sat in the quiet of our living room, after Ava had gone out with friends. I replayed the day over and over. His words, his audacity, the public disrespect, but something else stirred beneath the pain. Resolve. He thought I would fall apart. He thought I would crumble, beg, weep, or blame myself. But I wouldn't give him the satisfaction, because while Daniel believed he had taken control of the story, he had no idea that this wasn't the end of a chapter. It was the beginning of mine, and when I was finished, he'd wish he had left me quietly. Because what was coming would make him scream. It's funny how the mind protects itself. In the weeks after Daniel's graduation day bombshell, I began remembering things, small details I had ignored, tiny cracks that had been covered with the paint of routine. Like how he started showering before coming home from work, or how his phone was always flipped face down at dinner, or how he stopped saying, "I love you," but still signed cards with D, or how he started calling me Claire, more than baby, or Han. The signs had been there. My heart saw them, but I told myself marriage just changes. Life gets busy, love evolves. Right? I was wrong. 2 weeks later, I found her name. Her emails were tucked neatly in a hidden folder labeled Work docs. Her messages dripped with false affection and stolen time, counting down the minutes until I see you again. That thing you did last night. God, you're bad. I love it. Does she suspect anything yet? I feel bad sometimes, but not enough to stop. Her name was Jessica, 29, a project manager in his firm, single, childless, and blonde in that filtered Instagram way. There were receipts too. Expensive dinners in restaurants I'd never been to, hotel bookings during business trips, and even a spa day he paid for, using our joint account. I sat at our kitchen table, flipping through it all. My hands trembled, but I didn't cry. I wasn't the kind of broken that cried anymore. I was the kind that calculates. The real cost of love. For 21 years I had been a stay-at-home mom. Daniel wanted it that way. He said, "No wife of mine is going to slave away at a 9 to 5 when our daughter needs full-time parenting." I gave up a writing career. I gave up a job offer at a publishing house I would have killed for at 25. I gave up late nights and happy hours and girls' trips. I gave up me. He promised he'd always take care of us. Turns out, had an expiration date I never signed up for, but I wasn't stupid. I still managed our finances. I knew our assets. I knew where every dollar lived. I had power. He just didn't think I'd ever use it. That was his first mistake. I called a lawyer. Her name was Elaine Mercado, divorce attorney, sharp as glass, reputation like fire. I showed her the emails, the receipts, the joint account history. She leaned back in her leather chair, steepling her fingers. "He used marital funds to support his affair?" she asked. I nodded. "Good," she said, scribbling notes. "We're going to destroy him. Quiet moves over the next month." I played the role of the grieving wife. I made no noise, no public statements, no arguments. I was kindness itself in text to him. "Of course, Daniel. I understand. Ava's what matters most. Just enough to keep him relaxed, stupid, and complacent." Meanwhile, I moved all marital funds I was entitled to into a separate account. I froze our shared credit card before he could drain it further. I hired a forensic accountant to dig deeper. I changed the title of our home, which was always in my name before we refinanced, to reflect sole ownership. He never checked the paperwork back then. I even installed new locks. He still had his toothbrush here. I left it exactly where it was. Let him think I was just waiting. Let him believe I was paralyzed by heartbreak. The truth was, I was waiting, but not for him. Ava noticed. One night, Ava came home from her part-time job and found me curled on the couch reading a financial report instead of a novel. "You okay, Mom?" she asked. "I'm fine, sweetheart," I said, marking a page. "Just thinking about the future." She hesitated. "Is Dad coming back home?" I looked at her, this girl who was half me and half him, but all her own. "No, baby, he's not." She sat beside me. "Good." I looked up. "What do you mean?" "I saw the way he looked at you lately. Like you were in the way. I always hoped you'd leave first." That was the first time I cried since the graduation. Not because I was hurt. Because I wasn't alone in seeing the truth. The calm before the scream. He texted me on a Thursday night. "Hey, Jessica and I are coming to Ava's college send-off party. I hope that's okay. I want to support her transition." I stared at the message. "Of course you're coming. Of course you're bringing her. Good. Come. I'll be ready." I smiled to myself, then poured a glass of wine. The storm he started was finally coming full circle, and I had one last surprise he'd never see coming. The day of Ava's college send-off arrived like a quiet drum roll. Soft, steady, and full of expectation. The backyard was beautiful. Twinkling fairy lights hung from the pergola Daniel and I once built together. Back when we still built things, tables were dressed in soft white linens, and Ava's favorite pink peonies bloomed in vases, perfuming the late summer air. There were hand-written place cards, a chocolate cake from her favorite bakery, and a small college board I had spent weeks crafting with photos from every year of her life. I'd poured myself into this event, but not just for Ava. This was going to be a celebration, and a performance, and a reckoning. The guests arrived, relatives, neighbors, and a few of Ava's childhood friends filtered in. Laughter bubbled through the air like champagne. I moved from table to table, smiling with genuine warmth. I was proud of my daughter, fiercely so. And tonight that love gave me armor. At precisely 6:42 p.m. they arrived, Daniel and Jessica. She wore a pastel sundress that didn't quite cover the smugness on her face. Her arm clung to his, and she looked at me like she was doing me a favor just by existing in my space. Daniel gave me a curt nod. "Claire, I smiled. Daniel, Jessica. Beautiful setup. Jessica said, eyes scanning the decorations. You've really outdone yourself. Thank you, I replied smoothly. Ava deserves the best. Daniel looked around and chuckled awkwardly. Looks expensive. It was, I said with a polite smile that didn't reach my eyes. The toast, we gathered near the patio steps for speeches. Ava stood by my side, glowing in a white sundress and sandals, laughing as someone told a story from middle school. I looked at her, and in her eyes, I saw every reason I needed to keep going. When the room quieted, I tapped my glass gently with a fork. I'd like to say a few words. I began. All eyes turned to me, including his. I looked around, steady calm. First, thank you all for coming tonight. Ava's about to start a new chapter, and I couldn't be prouder. She's everything I ever hoped to raise. Strong, smart, compassionate. I turned slightly to face her. You are the best thing I ever did. She blinked away a tear, and I reached out to hold her hand. But there's something else I need to say. I continued, turning now to the rest of the crowd. To all of you. To my friends, my family, and to Daniel. He stiffened. Jessica looked confused. You see, this party isn't just about sending Ava off to college. It's also about turning the page in my own life. Because the truth is, this last year has been difficult. A hush fell. Daniel's eyebrows narrowed. I learned things I never wanted to know. About betrayal, about lies, about the price of loyalty. But I also learned something else. I reached behind me and pulled a stack of manila folders from under the table. I walked forward and placed them directly into Daniel's hands. Surprise, I said softly. You've been served. The scream, there was a pause. Half a second of absolute silence. Then Daniel exploded. What the hell is this? He barked, ripping open the folder. Jessica leaned in to look. Her face paled. Daniel, financial fraud. He read aloud, voice rising. You're accusing me of stealing. I kept my voice level. You used our joint funds to support an extramarital affair. Multiple trips, gifts, hotel stays, and even your little romantic weekend in Vermont. All paid with money intended for Ava's education and our mortgage. That, Daniel, is marital asset misappropriation. The courts call that financial infidelity. You crazy bee. I cut him off, raising one hand. We're still in front of our guests. Let's not embarrass yourself further. He looked around. Half the room was frozen in shock. The other half had pulled out their phones. Jessica took a step back. I didn't know about any of this. You wrote your name on one of the hotel bills. I replied coolly. I have copies. Her face turned red. And then I finished him, also. I added, stepping closer to Daniel, you may want to check your access to our accounts. I removed your name from everything weeks ago. The house, it's in my name again. You never noticed, did you? Daniel's lips curled. You can't do that. Oh, but I did, legally. While you were busy playing Romeo at conference hotels, I was cleaning house, literally and financially. He stepped toward me, but Ava moved between us. Back off, Dad, she said firmly. He froze. She turned to me. You okay, Mom? I nodded. I am now. Public humiliation was never my goal. But it was a bonus. Jessica slithered out 15 minutes later. She didn't say goodbye. Daniel left after her, still yelling, still protesting. No one stopped him. No one cared. I stood under the fairy lights as the chaos faded, guests murmuring in awe. Some came to hug me. Some whispered, good for you. One woman asked for my lawyer's number. Later that night, the backyard was quiet again. Just me and Ava, sitting on the steps, sharing a plate of leftover cake. You planned this, didn't you? She asked with a smirk. I shrugged. Sometimes revenge tastes better with frosting. She laughed. He didn't see it coming. No. I agreed, looking up at the stars. He thought he was ending something at your graduation, but he didn't realize I was just getting started. The morning after the party, I woke up before the sun. Not from anxiety, not from heartbreak, but from peace. There was no more pretending. No more silence swallowing me whole. No more empty chair at the dinner table, holding space for a man who had already left me in every way but physically. For the first time in months, maybe years, I didn't feel hollow. I felt free. The fallout. Daniel tried to do damage control, of course. He sent a slew of texts the next day. You humiliated me in front of everyone. That was low, Claire. What can settle this privately? Don't drag this through the courts. You're poisoning Iva against me. She won't understand until she's older. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have words, but because he didn't deserve them anymore. Instead, I let my lawyer respond, every single time. And when Daniel realized he no longer had access to our accounts, that I had locked the equity in the house, that he'd face legal consequences for draining marital funds, that's when the real screaming began. His texts turned into voicemails, his voicemails into begging, then threats, then more begging. You don't want to do this, Claire. It's not just me you're hurting. But he never once said he was sorry. Never admitted the affair. Never acknowledged the betrayal. That was the final confirmation I needed. He wasn't sorry for what he'd done. He was sorry he'd lost control. Ava chose her side a week after the party. Ava came into the kitchen holding her phone. Dad wants to meet for coffee, she said. Just the two of us. I nodded. It's up to you, sweetheart. She hesitated. Would it hurt your feelings if I did? My heart clenched, not from fear, but from love. No, Ava, it wouldn't. You have every right to make your own choices. She looked relieved. I think I just want to hear what he has to say. 2 hours later, she came home early. Her face told me everything. Well, I asked gently. She dropped her bag by the door. He blamed you. For all of it. Said you drove him away. That you were too emotional and distant. My throat tightened. I'm sorry, baby. I told him I didn't believe a word of it, she said. Told him he's the one who walked out on us, not just you. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me. I'm with you, Mom, always. Rebuilding me reinvention is a slow, sacred process. It doesn't happen all at once. But I started. I took a freelance writing gig, just part-time, just to dip my toes back in. And it felt good. Like finding a hidden part of myself. I thought I'd buried under laundry and grocery lists. I repainted the living room. I went wine tasting with an old college friend. I started a small blog called After the Storm, where I wrote anonymously about betrayal, motherhood, and healing. It went viral within 2 months. Women wrote to me from around the world, saying, "This is my story, too. You gave me courage." I thought I was alone until now. I wasn't just reclaiming my life. I was giving other women the roadmap to reclaim theirs. Daniel's empire crumbles, the job he valued so much. Gone. Apparently, Jessica didn't keep secrets as well as he thought. Word got out about their affair, not from me, but from her own angry friend in HR. A quiet investigation ensued, and Daniel was invited to resign before it got messy. Jessica, she left him. Of course she did. He moved into a 1-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. Word is, he's selling off stocks to pay legal fees. We're still in court, and I'm not stopping until Ava and I get everything we're owed. He once told me, I can't keep living a lie. Well, now he's living the truth. And it's bitter. The last encounter 3 months after the party, I ran into him at the grocery store. He looked smaller, not physically but somehow diminished, his shoulders hunched, his face aged, his clothes wrinkled. He said, almost like a sigh, Daniel. He looked at the cart I was pushing, full of organic produce, a new magazine, a bottle of my favorite wine. Joy, you look good. I tilted my head. I am good. He looked away. Ava doesn't talk to me much anymore. She's building her future. Give her space. He nodded. You really did turn everyone against me. No, I said softly. You did that all by yourself. And I walked away. Epilogue, the cafe window 6 months later. Ava and I sat in a small cafe near her campus. She had just aced her midterms. I had just been offered a column in a major magazine. We clinked mugs over shared pastries and talked about travel plans for winter break. You ever think about dating again? She asked suddenly, teasing. I laughed. Is this where you try to set me up with one of your professors? She made a face. No. Just wondering. I looked out the window at the city lights. Maybe. When I'm ready. But right now I'm happy. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You deserve it, Mom. So much had changed. So much had ended. But here, in this moment, everything felt like it was just beginning.